There are films that entertain, films that inspire, and then there are films that leave an unsettling mark on your soul. Dark works of art so powerful that they don't just tell a story, they redefine what cinema itself can be. These aren't easy watches. They challenge morality, bend the boundaries of storytelling, and expose the shadows of human existence. From oppressive atmospheres to haunting imagery, these films have shifted the language of cinema forever. 10. Antichrist, 2009. Lars von Trier's Antichrist is one of the most controversial films of the 21st century. Blending psychological horror with surrealist imagery, the film explores grief, guilt, and the destructive instincts buried deep within human nature. Starring Willem Dafoe and Charlotte Gainsbourg, the movie places a couple in the isolation of the woods, where their grief mutates into a disturbing cycle of violence and despair. The film's raw brutality and shocking sequences sparked outrage, but it also redefined the boundaries of art house cinema, forcing audiences to confront the darkest corners of the human psyche. It is not merely a horror film, it is a philosophical descent into chaos. 9. Eraserhead, 1977. David Lynch's debut feature, Eraserhead, remains one of the most influential surrealist films ever made. With its industrial wasteland setting, disturbing sound design, and grotesque imagery, Lynch crafted a nightmarish exploration of fear, fatherhood, and alienation. The infamous Baby remains one of the most haunting and debated creations in cinema history. While initially rejected by mainstream audiences, the film found life in midnight screenings and eventually became a cult classic. Its experimental techniques inspired generations of filmmakers to push the boundaries of visual storytelling, proving that horror and darkness could be poetic as well as terrifying. 8. The Night of the Hunter, 1955. Directed by Charles Laughton, The Night of the Hunter was unlike anything that had come before it. Part fairy tale, part nightmare, the story follows a murderous preacher who hunts two children for hidden money. With Robert Mitchum's chilling performance as Reverend Harry Powell, tattooed with the infamous love and hate across his knuckles, the film turned biblical morality into a haunting parable. Though a critical failure at its release, it later gained recognition as one of the most visually striking and thematically daring films of its era. 7. Come and See, 1985. Few films have ever captured the horror of war as unflinchingly as Elim Klimov's Come and See. Following a young boy in Nazi-occupied Belarus, the film depicts not just the physical atrocities of war, but the psychological devastation it leaves behind. The performances, especially from the child lead Alexei Kravchenko, are almost unbearable in their rawness. The film's long takes, surreal visions, and relentless realism have traumatized viewers for decades. More than a war film, Come and See is an assault on innocence and an uncompromising look at the collapse of humanity under the weight of violence. 6. The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, 1920. One of the earliest masterpieces of German expressionism, The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari reshaped the way cinema could depict madness and fear. With its distorted sets, jagged shadows, and theatrical performances, the film created a visual language that influenced not only horror but filmmaking as a whole. Its twist ending was revolutionary for its time, embedding psychological complexity into a silent era narrative. Beyond its haunting atmosphere, the film mirrored the anxieties of post-World War I Germany and set the stage for decades of darker, more experimental storytelling. 5. Stalker, 1979. Andrei Tarkovsky's Stalker is less a science fiction adventure and more a philosophical meditation on desire, fear, and the unknown. In a post-apocalyptic world, three men journey into the Forbidden Zone, a place where their deepest wishes may come true. Through its slow pace, hypnotic cinematography, and cryptic dialogue, the film creates a sense of unease that grows heavier with each passing minute. While not violent in the traditional sense, Its darkness lies in existential dread, the fear of confronting the truth about oneself. Stalker redefined what science fiction could be, shifting it from spectacle to spiritual inquiry. 4. Nosferatu, 1922. F. W. Murnau's Nosferatu is one of the earliest and most enduring horror films ever created. Loosely adapted from Dracula, it brought to life the grotesque figure of Count Orlok, far removed from the suave vampires that would dominate later cinema. With its eerie imagery, stark shadows, and chilling use of silence, the film created a sense of unease that still lingers a century later. Beyond being a milestone of horror, Nosferatu transformed cinema into a medium capable of conjuring nightmares, and its influence on vampire mythology and horror storytelling is immeasurable. 3. The Seventh Seal, 1957. Ingmar Bergman's The Seventh Seal is a philosophical masterpiece that uses darkness not as spectacle, but as an exploration of mortality itself. Set during the Black Death, the film follows a knight returning from the Crusades who encounters death personified and challenges him to a game of chess. The stark imagery, with its wind-swept beaches and haunting silences, captures the existential despair of humanity facing its own fragility. Few images in cinema are as iconic as the knight seated across from death, the chessboard between them. With its meditations on faith, futility, and the human desire for meaning, The Seventh Seal didn't just change cinema, it elevated it into the realm of philosophy. 2. A Clockwork Orange, 1971. Stanley Kubrick's adaptation of Anthony Burgess's novel remains one of the most shocking critiques of free will violence and societal control ever put on screen. Following the sadistic youth Alex and his droogs, the film explores the consequences of crime, punishment, and state-imposed morality. With its brutal violence, unsettling use of classical music, and haunting futuristic design, A Clockwork Orange was banned in several countries, yet its impact has been lasting. The questions it raises about freedom, evil, and human nature remain as disturbing today as they were in the 1970s. 1. Apocalypse Now, 1979. Francis Ford Coppola's Apocalypse Now is more than a war film. It's a descent into madness. Loosely based on Heart of Darkness, the story follows Captain Willard as he journeys upriver to confront the rogue Colonel Kurtz. Along the way, the lush jungles of Vietnam transform into a surreal, hellish landscape. With its groundbreaking cinematography, haunting soundtrack, and unforgettable performances by Martin Sheen and Marlon Brando, the film captured the chaos and moral decay of war in a way that cinema had never attempted before. It redefined the war genre and remains one of the darkest, most ambitious projects in film history. Cinema has always reflected the human condition, but these films didn't just reflect it, they forced us to confront it. From the haunting silence of The Seventh Seal to the surreal horror of Eraserhead and the chaos of Apocalypse Now, these works pushed audiences beyond comfort into the shadows of the human soul. They remind us that film isn't only about escape, it's also about confrontation. And sometimes, the darkest films are the ones that shine the brightest light on who we truly are.